spent $3 million for NASA to study Congress. NASA is all about space exploration. Maybe they are studying alien life forms too, because that's that's the best way to approach studying Congress. This is the one that I loved. We spent $630,000 to get the U.S. State Department followers and friends on Facebook and Twitter. $630 for followers and friends on Facebook and Twitter. Now, most of us could get those for free. When you have to buy your friends and your followers, that's kind of bad. By the way, I love the look of the younger folks that are sitting here. They're like, what? Really? Because we get them for free all the time. They had to pay for them. That's how much people don't like these government departments. Here's one for you. $1 million for the National Something of the Arts, NEA, National Endowment of the Arts, to study romance and multimedia. Submitted without comment. $1 billion in marketing of the Affordable Care Act. $1 billion in marketing of this. Now, if something's so good, you don't need to market it like that. That it wasn't hard sold, though. Remember that. They didn't do a hard sell, $1 billion. They didn't do a hard sell. Don't get it mistaken. This one, let me figure out a way to phrase this, but it's so insane to me. I'll just say it. $2.2 million to study lesbian obesity. Submitted without comment. I had fun with that one on air. It took me about an hour of live radio to get over that. $615,000 was spent at the UC of Santa Cruz to digitize all of the Grateful Dead tickets and T-shirts and handbills. I don't even like the Grateful Dead. Why are we spending this amount of money digitizing their merch? I don't understand this. And the younger people are like, who are the Grateful Dead? They were a horrible jam band. Oh, they were so horrible. They were really bad. So be glad that you are way far removed from that. Horrible. $3 million to UC Irvine to study World of Warcraft. Now, when I mentioned this on air, I had lines packed for about 2 hours for people, gamers, who wanted to know how they could get in on that. And they were serious. I'm like, I'm not, I don't know. You can't get, I think it's closed. And why would you want to do that? This is the best one. You'll like this one, especially the little guys. $700,000 from the USDA to the University of New Hampshire to study cow farts. Now, my uncle he has dairy cattle. I'm pretty sure he could tell them about that stuff for free. $1.8 million to the Museum of Neon Signs in Las Vegas, because that's going to really be helpful. We have $60,000 that went to an Iowa pizzeria because they needed to redo their facade to make it more inviting. That was the reason listed. I don't know, maybe there's some historic significance to this pizzeria which still doesn't justify why we're spending all this money. I would like a more inviting facade in my backyard, and I would like to be able to keep more of my own money to do it, but instead I have it leached off of me by the federal government so that we can go pay for some pizzeria in Iowa, likely which we will never visit. And I bet they don't even have gluten-free crust. Or a free pizza, exactly. I didn't realize, you guys, that I have been couponing and Grouponing and going to the store and getting Fruitios instead of Fruit Loops and going and getting cheese squares instead of Cheez-Its so that I could pay to study cow farts and lesbian obesity. Didn't know that. At some point, I would love to be able to walk into a store and say, kids, you go get the brand names. I don't know about you, but that's always been my dream, to be able to walk in and be like, You just go get the brand name. You want some Cheez-Its? You go get some Cheez-Its. You want some Fruit Loops? Don't walk right past those Fruitios. Get a box of Fruit Loops. But I can't because we have to fund a museum for neon signs, and we also have to pay $20 million to put signs up to let people know our government is doing something. And they wonder why confidence in Congress is circling the commode. Now, Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, which I encourage all the young people especially, it sounds like it's boring history stuff, but I promise you it's actually really cool. Clauses 3 through 16. This is actually what our government is supposed to be spending money on. Do you realize that if we cut all of our government spending and limited it to what was in Article 1, Section 8, Clauses 3 through 16, we would have a budget surplus? It itemizes all of the powers that we, the people, delegate to Congress, including what they can and cannot spend our money on. And it tells you what the revenue, how it is supposed to be obtained. And if you can't get it through the federal government, the state, you get it through state taxes. We would have a budget surplus. You know, the Cato Institute has a fabulous 11-page PDF. If you are like me and your wild nights consist of having some tea, sitting by the fire, and reading wonk stuff about fiscal conservatism and the Constitution. To me, that is a party. This happens to you when you turn 30. I'm really sorry about that. But at least it's not the Grateful Dead, you know. No offense if anybody likes them. Yeah, that's how it's supposed to be. Article 1, Section 8, that's how we're supposed to be spending our money. We would have a budget surplus. Wisconsin, when they went and they decided to redo how they were dealing with their revenue, and they decided to cut their spending, they did these austerity cuts. There were a lot of people who didn't like the fact that they weren't going to be getting an allowance from Uncle Sam, so they threw a fit about it. But you know what happened? And the media won't talk about it, is Wisconsin ended up with a surplus over $1 billion. Wisconsin. And you know what their governor did? They gave it back to everybody in the form of a tax rebate.